It, of course, folks, is the second week of the college football playoff rankings reveal. Welcome into the Voice of College Football. We appreciate you hanging out with us as we check out the rankings together. And we currently see on the ESPN broadcast Week 10 storylines. Well, we can do a much better job than they can in pointing out the Week 10 storylines. As it pertains to the committee and the rankings, Week 10 storylines. How about Alabama? Let's start there because we had a situation in the initial rankings where Texas and Oklahoma had met on the field. Oklahoma won the game. They had the same record. And Texas was ranked above Oklahoma despite the Sooners' head-to-head win. Now we've got a situation where Texas, rightfully so, ranked ahead of Alabama in the initial rankings last week. But since then, Alabama went out and played a dominant second half against LSU. Really good ball game for the first half into the third quarter. And then Alabama pulled away 42-28 against LSU. LSU, really good team. I expect LSU to still be in the rankings somewhere. I certainly have them safely in the rankings. Teams should not automatically drop just because they lost a game, especially if they performed well and performed well against a top team. But the Alabama win, coupled with the Texas near loss, probably should have been lost at home against Kansas State, a good team, but who has Kansas State defeated this year? I'll clue you in on this one. No one. So that's going to be interesting for me to see whether there was a thought to, and even if it's not revealed in the rankings, there should be a question asked about Texas versus Bama. Oregon coming off a dominant win over Cal. That's pretty much just a placeholder. Doesn't mean anything. Cal's awful, and Oregon did what they were supposed to do to Cal. They blew them out 63-19. Up top, Ohio State struggled for much of the game against Rutgers. They pulled away. Won a game in which they probably didn't look as good as what was seen on the scoreboard. Let's get to the top 25. Here they are. Kansas State's at 25. North Carolina has made its way into the rankings here at number 24 after the big win over Campbell. All right, Tulane at 23, Iowa 22, Arizona 21. You'll have to bear with me. Arizona. Now, they jumped all the way up to number 21 from out of the rankings, and that is certainly justified. I've got Arizona somewhere in that range as well, in the low 20s, because they have been one hot football team for weeks. Even before they started to rattle off the wins, just consider the 3 losses by the Wildcats. They went to Mississippi State, not a real good football team, but an SEC, middling SEC team. But still, difficult place to play at Starkville. And Arizona State, at that point, had been playing with Jaden Delore at quarterback before he got injured. And that loss came down to a measurement. And then they play USC to triple overtime. Then they play Washington to a 1-score game. And now they're starting to defeat teams like UCLA and Oregon State. There we see Notre Dame at number 20 following a loss to Clemson. LSU at 19. They dropped 5 spots. Really? Okay. Utah at number 18. Oklahoma took a free fall after losing their game to Oklahoma State. Kansas is at number 16, going up 5 spots. So Kansas now has equaled Oklahoma's record with the Sooners losing 2 straight. And, of course, they played head-to-head, so they enter the head-to-head. They're 16-17 in the rankings. And, again, LSU drops by 5 spots. Notre Dame drops by 5 spots. Okay. We've got Oklahoma State at 15. I've got them higher. But they've jumped 7 spots. Okay. This was the first interesting team that I knew that I was going to disagree with the committee here. Missouri went on the road and played maybe the best team in the country. And they lost by 9 points, and they played a really good game. It was close. Not down to the wire close, but close. And Missouri drops. This committee, I typically back them up. I typically have evaluated them to do a good job through these 9 seasons. And I know the committee members have changed through the 9 seasons as we go through Tennessee 13, Oregon State 12, Louisville 11. Let's cover that first. But Missouri at 14, dropping 2 spots. Actually, Missouri just played its most impressive game of the season. I guarantee that Missouri, in those 7 wins, only one's over Kansas State, a really good team. That many of those other wins they beat like bad football teams and really not that impressively, and they jumped like 5, 6, 7 spots. But when they played Georgia within 9 points on the road, they dropped 2 spots. Penn State at number 10. And of course, the Nittany Lions righted some wrongs against Maryland. Looked the part, winning by 36. They jump up a spot. So before we get to see the final 9, any predictions out there from the chat in regards to anything different that we're going to see? Off the top of my head, the only thing I'm thinking is that I guarantee there was a debate in the room about Alabama and Texas, about Texas won the head-to-head, but is Alabama the better team right now? Texas now playing with a backup quarterback, Malik Murphy, played a close game against Kansas, an excruciatingly close game against Kansas State, played a close game against Houston 2 weeks ago. Ole Miss at number 9. They jump a spot as well. Rebels coming off a close win, a game in which they dominated the first half, but held on to defeat Texas A&M on a missed field goal at the gun, 38-35. There we've got Alabama at 8. So Texas is maintaining this position over Alabama, and I completely agree with it. I'm just raising it as a talking point that it could have been interesting. And again, I can just about guarantee that the point was brought up in the room of possibly Alabama playing better football at this point than Texas. So the last 7 should be chalk, right? The last 7, I don't see any changes coming. Everybody won. Nobody had a real close call. Oregon dominated. So we'll see here at 7. Should be Texas. Should be Oregon at 6. Washington at 5. Florida State at 4. Michigan at 3. And then there could be a push for Georgia at number 1. Does anybody think that maybe Georgia went from 2 to 1? Ohio State struggled in the first half. Georgia played a better team in Missouri, although they're really not that much from a record standpoint, that much better at 7-2 over Rutgers 6-3. We just have it stuck in our head that Rutgers sucks, but they don't. Bill says it right there. Nobody did anything to change the 4 in. I would agree in terms of the 4 in, but maybe in terms of the spacing of the teams. Matthew thinks that Georgia would probably be 1. Okay. I guarantee that conversation was had. Grapefruit juice is being suggested. Well, I'm drinking a lot of water. Yeah, my nose is running like a faucet. Where's Tulane? Tulane was in there, right? Or did Tulane drop? I dropped Tulane out of my rankings. They lost to East Carolina, or they beat East Carolina, a 1-7 football team, by a field goal. Yeah. I don't believe any group of 5 teams belong in the rankings right now. There are no group of 5 teams that are that good. Jeremy thinks FSU is getting snubbed a bit. Yeah, I feel fine. It's just sinuses. All right. At number 6, we should see Oregon. There they are. Washington, they struggle to a certain degree with USC, but it is USC. They're still multi-talented. Yeah, this is just a humdrum week, folks. This is a humdrum week. Again, there could be an argument Georgia goes to 1. That's a possibility. Doug, thanks for leaving out the D, spelling it right. Perfect. Ralph says Bama goes to 6. That was a prediction or a request, maybe by Ralph, who believes Alabama should be 6. Yes, USC's gone. So Rye brings up a good point, even though down the rankings don't impact the playoffs and don't really matter from that standpoint. But yeah, USC played the number 5 team in the country to a really good game, 52-42. So there we got Florida State at 4. And our drama is going to be between 1 and 2. There's Michigan at 3. With the way they're playing. David Braun. Does the next Northwestern coach come from Washington State or Oregon State? Meaning at the head coaching level or at the coordinator level? I'm guessing the head coaching level, because you're bringing those two teams up because of the Pac-12's demise and because they're going away and those coaches would want to stay in the Power 5. Georgia 2, there we go. Ohio State is number 1, unless James Madison should be number 1 or Liberty. There it is. So the Buckeyes stay at number 1. So I'm anticipating these questions of the committee. Number 1, did you think about elevating Alabama past Texas because of how well they played? Did you think about elevating Georgia over Ohio State because of Georgia's win over a top 10 or 12 Missouri team and Ohio State struggles in the first half? Who was the lowest ranked team that could get to the playoff? That's always a good question to ask. I guess it would be Penn State's at 11. We've got Penn State at 11. Oh, Penn State's at 10. I think I have them at 11. Penn State at 10. I think that they would be the lowest team that can get to the playoff. Yeah, it would be Penn State. I'm talking, Louisville at 11. Yeah, I guess it's Louisville. I don't think there's anybody past that. I believe, I might be wrong on this, that Ohio State's the lowest ranked team to ever get to the playoff. They were 22. Blake says, Mark, no, I missed it there. Blake says, Mark, do you see a way of Bama winning the SEC championship game? Bama and Georgia both get in, of course. Oh, they both get in. Mark, do you see a way Bama? Absolutely. I see a way of that happening. It would help if the Pac-12, and this is the most likely scenario impacting that, is that the Pac-12 beats up on each other, because there are just 4, 5, 6 teams that can win games against each other. So the Pac-12 eliminates itself. Bama in that situation would not want Texas to win the Big 12. They want somebody else to jump up and win the Big 12, not Texas, because of that direct comparison. But yeah, if there's one Big 10 champion in Florida State and the 2 in the SEC, but again, What would have really helped Bama was for Kansas State to pull off that upset on Saturday, which did not happen. So, yeah, it's not likely. The most likely conference to get two teams in would be the Big Ten, but it is possible. Yeah, it's in play. Oh, what do we have? Do we have somebody messing up the chat here? We've got a resume comparison of the one-loss teams between Oregon, Texas, and Bama. That's 6, 7, and 8. Strength of record, Bama 4, Texas 5, Oregon 6. Strength of schedule, Bama 8, Texas 10. Oregon's only 63rd, but that's going to Oregon at 63rd strength of schedule. Well, they've got USC this week. They've got Oregon State, the final game, and I think their other game. I just posted a Pac-12 segment. Give that a look. I went through the tiebreakers and the various scenarios. How about Louisville getting to the playoff? How about that? Todd says if Michigan wins out, they'll be number one before the conference championship. Yes, I would agree with that. I think that they would displace Georgia and, of course, Ohio State. They displaced Georgia, who has Tennessee. That's going to be a nice win. Is Tennessee in these rankings? I guess not. Tennessee is 7-2. I'm a bit surprised Tennessee is not in these rankings. I don't believe they are. But Georgia would have a nice win against Tennessee, and really that's it. 3 games left. Georgia's got Tennessee. They've got the scrimmage game against whoever, and then they've got Georgia Tech. Good to see Noah Thompson here. Is it just me, or are these analysts mostly worried about the eye test? Strength of record is almost swept under the rug by them. Well, I'm not hearing what they're saying, but I can imagine. I think these analysts tend to go in the direction that of their opinion because they want to value their own opinions as football analysts, as observers of the sport and evaluators. Corey, do you think Michigan will be number one if they beat Ohio State? I do. Dutchy believes Ohio State would lose to Georgia, Oregon, Michigan, Bama, and maybe Florida State. Okay. Blake, Mark, you see a way? Okay. I answered that question. We have left the link in the chat. Give me a ring. We'll talk about the rankings. We also have moved our USC show to tonight. So our USC shows tonight at 10 Eastern, 7 Pacific, typically on Monday night. Please join the show. And this doesn't do very good for clicks, but I'm going to say that it's a very anticlimactic rankings, and not that there's anything wrong with the rankings. I don't have any issue with the rankings outside of Missouri should not have dropped. And the committee would explain that if they're doing this correctly, as I approach it, you don't necessarily drop teams or raise teams. So that's the result. That's the result of the re-ranking every week, that some teams rise and some teams fall. But I don't intentionally say, well, they were number 15 and they won, so I'm going to move them to 13, or they were number 15 and they lost, so I'm going to move them to 20. No, I just re-rank all the teams every week. So I don't raise or lower teams. And the committee is supposed to be taking the same approach, that they re-rank, tear it all down every week. All right. Welcome into the Voice of College Football. Michael's on the line. Michael, what's going on? Hello, Michael. Are you with us? I guess not. Michael, give us another shot. Michael's been having issues the last few nights trying to get through. Let's see if the rankings are posted. I would think that they are at this point. There we go. Ohio State at number 1. Buckeyes have a game coming up against Michigan State at home. Georgia's number 2. And I am losing track of who Georgia's got. Oh, Georgia's got Ole Miss. Georgia's got Ole Miss coming up. So for Georgia, is it Ole Miss, Tennessee, Georgia Tech? So that might be enough to hold off Michigan. Although Penn State and Ohio State certainly trump Tennessee and Ole Miss, but that's a pretty strong final 3 for Georgia. Michigan going to Penn State, of course, this week is a 6.5-point favorite. Check out our live streams that we posted over the last few days. The Big Ten live show. We also did a bonus Michigan live show on the main channel here on Monday. Florida State at number 4, coming off a win against Pitt. Not really much to talk about there. Florida State does have a game against, they've got Florida at the end of the year. They've got Miami this week. Miami coming off a disappointing showing against NC State. The interesting portion of this is that, of course, Washington and Oregon played. They play in the same conference and play every year. But that Texas-Alabama game really did matter, that those two teams played. And here they are at 7 and 8. Alabama and Ole Miss played. And they are back-to-back. So we have a situation where numbers 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 all played, and they're all lined up based on head-to-head. Penn State obviously could make an enormous move if they win against Michigan. If Penn State wins that game against Michigan, regardless of what it looks like, you got to think Penn State would go to, let's say everything else is chalk this weekend, that Penn State would get to, would they pass Oregon with a win against Michigan? So that's the team that could be the biggest mover this week. Penn State. They're either done or they are going to skyrocket to 6. Possibly. I guess you got to weigh, they would still have, by rankings, a better loss than Oregon, and they would have a better win than Oregon. They would lose to Ohio State and Columbus and beat Michigan. So Penn State's got a lot to gain this week, of course. More importantly, in the Big Ten standings. Louisville, I don't remember who they play. They're coming off a big win against Virginia Tech by 31. Louisville's got a last game against Kentucky. They've got, I believe, Virginia coming up this week. We've got Oregon State, and the rest of these teams, unfortunately, do not factor in. It doesn't really matter how much they could possibly jump. There just aren't enough losses out there where a 2-loss team has any. Could anybody fathom any kind of situation in which a 2-loss team would make the playoff? 2-loss team making the playoff. 2-loss team. The best shot probably Oregon State, because they would have the best strength of schedule going through the Pac-12. They'd have wins if they finish off the rest of the season and they go 11-2. Well, they would have defeated Oregon, Utah, UCLA, and then they've got a Pac-12 championship game against, let's say, Washington. So Oregon State would be the one with the best prayer. Oklahoma State / Kansas / Oklahoma would be next. So keep in mind that one of those teams that we see right there, Oklahoma State, Kansas, Oklahoma, or West Virginia, all with 2 losses, and Kansas State at number 25 down there with, let's see, Kansas State. Yeah, they lost to Missouri outside the conference. So there's still a 4-way tie for second place in the Big 12 to play Texas in the conference championship game. Let's give it another shot with Michael. Michael, how you doing tonight?
Mark, is this any better?
Oh, yeah. We got you loud and clear, Michael.
I'm about ready to throw my phone. I don't know what it is with my phone.
Oh, be kind to your phone.
Do what?
I said be kind to your phone.
I will, and stuff like that. No, I was thinking it's going to be Ohio State and stuff like that. But I wouldn't have been surprised if it was Georgia and stuff like that. But with Georgia playing Ole Miss this weekend, Michigan's going to College Station and stuff. If it's a convincing win for Michigan, is there a chance that they, both Georgia and Michigan, can leapfrog Ohio State? And Louisville's 11th right now, right? In the top 20
yes.
in the CFP.
Yes.
What's been the single biggest jump in the 10 years they've been doing this? It is somehow, some way, if they're still like maybe 10 and 11, by the time the final CFP poll comes out in December, and they beat Georgia, if they beat Florida State, could that be enough to leapfrog him up there?
Well, yeah, I believe that Louisville is the lowest ranked team that has a legitimate shot to make the playoff.
Mm-hmm.
So they're at 11. And if they win out, what's going to happen? Let's see. Let me find the rankings here. They're at 11.
Yeah.
And of course, we know that the only teams that really matter in front of them, Penn State's going to be out of the way. Ole Miss is going to be out of the way.
Do we know that for sure? Do we know that for sure, though?
Well, we know it because one of those teams has to be out of the way. Between Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State, one of them is going to be out of the way.
Okay. Well, I see that, though. I'm thinking it's going to be Penn State because you never know what – well, Ole Miss is in the West, so it's a moot point anyway.
That's why I chose Penn State. Mm-hmm. Between Alabama and Ole Miss, one of them is going to be out of the way because they're just going to be out of the way. They're not going to win the conference because they're not going to make the conference championship game.
Mm-hmm.
Florida State's going to be out of the way because Louisville is going to have to beat them in the conference championship game.
Yeah.
So they're going to have the head-to-head there.
Mm-hmm.
They would want oh boy, my goodness. They want Georgia to defeat Alabama in the SEC championship game.
Okay.
And just so everybody's got 2 losses except Georgia in the SEC. So there's only one SEC team. They're taking care of the ACC and leapfrogging Florida State. They want Texas to lose a Big 12 championship game.
Okay.
They want the Pac-12 to be a mess. And either Washington wins the Pac-12 and they go undefeated and everybody else has 2 losses, or a 2-loss team in the Pac-12 championship game. The way it's looking right now, if we believe Washington's going to run the table and Oregon to the Pac-12 championship game, then you probably want Washington to go ahead and knock out Oregon. And therefore you've got one team from each conference, except Texas loses, or another 1-loss team in a conference championship game. So it's not in Louisville's favor, but there's certainly a path.
Yeah. Now my thing is though, say Washington, Michigan, Florida State, Georgia, they all run the table.
Yep.
But Texas, whoever they play in the Big 12 championship, has a convincing win. Say they win by like at least 21 or more. Is there a chance Washington can get leapfrogged?
No. You're saying that Washington's going to be undefeated?
Yeah.
And Texas asking about Texas leapfrogging them? No, Washington plays in a better conference and they've got a much better schedule than Texas.
True. One last thing before I let you go. Does Florida State play Miami Saturday?
Yes.
Are you kind of wondering if there might be another wide right or wide left come Saturday afternoon around 3:30?
I believe they play at 3:30 or whatever.
Or 7 o'clock, whatever time they play.
Regardless. No, I don't believe in jinxes, or I don't believe in repeats in history in that manner. But do I think Miami could beat Florida State? Yeah, I do.
Where's the game at? Is it at Hard Rock, or is it in Tallahassee?
They are playing in Tallahassee.
Okay. I know this happened before with Florida State and stuff, but I didn't know and stuff. So that's what I was just wondering, if Miami's kind of laying in the weeds and stuff like that.
Yeah, they are. I would not be shocked if that went Miami's way.
Mm-hmm. When does Louisville get Miami, and who's Louisville got this week?
Louisville's got I believe Virginia this week. Then they've got Miami.
All right. And then they end the season with Kentucky.
Yes.
Which could be a potential trap game for them too, couldn't it?
Yep. Could be. Because then they'll have Florida State. So, yeah, Louisville's got a lot to make through.
Mm-hmm.
Not great teams, but capable teams that they could lose to.
Yeah. All right. I promise I won't throw my phone into the White River and stuff.
Yeah, don't
I'll
do
try
that.
to get it.
No,
maybe it's my ear, but I don't know. All right. I'm sure you get other callers. Oh, and I apologize for going ballistic last night during the Ocho. I just had to get had to get that off my chest.
Yeah. Well, I did not see it or hear about it, so you're safe.
All right.
Well, why did you go ballistic?
I just went ballistic on a few Ohio State fans last night. They know who they are.
All righty.
But that's a different topic for next Monday.
Okay, Michael.
See you.
Have a good night.
Yep.
All right, Mike 3883. Thank you so much for the contribution. How does the Wolverines Spygate rank among the other major cheating scandals in college football all time? Well, it's difficult to rate right now because we don't know the conclusion. So as soon as we get all the facts in and the investigation's complete, that we would know that then. It's very different. I will say that. It's difficult to rank because most scandals have involved recruiting. So we've had the couple, Penn State in particular, which completely is despicable and awful and is a violation of humanity. So that's on a different level. But talking about football-related scandals, they all involve recruiting, almost all of them. And so this is why I think this has resonated so much for a couple different reasons. I think this has been blown up, and it might be justified. I'm not saying it's not. But the reason it's been blown up is, number one, we live in a age of social media, which we've not seen a scandal this large since social media has been in play. Number one, there have been some large scale violations at places like LSU and Tennessee during that time, but they involve recruiting. And again, recruiting something that even though many of you are just complete recruiting maniacs and people love recruiting, there's nothing tangible about it. It's more speculation of how much would this recruit mean to this program? How much would they impact this team and build on the winning versus what we're seeing with Michigan and these allegations? It involves games that we're watching. So we can relate more to how severe this could be based on we're watching games, and it's just fueling the debate as the games are being played. More and more people have opinion about, well, what would have happened, what could have happened. So I don't know that the scandals on a larger scale. I think the perception of it's on a larger scale because of social media and because it involves football being played on the field. All right, just like the NFL version of the New England Patriots, for example, it involved on the field espionage. All right, let's get back to the phone lines. We've got Will here.
Hey, Mark.
How you doing?
I'm recovering over the Irish kind of a failed season now for the Irish, but I mean they can at least improve on last season. But there needs to be a offensive coordinator change or something needs to happen to the offense. But
who do they have? Stanford and who else?
Stanford and Wake. So nothing really.
Wake.
Yeah, we're not going to learn much about the team,
well,
unless if they of course lose.
Yes, but, yeah. They're of course way better than either one of them. But November, when teams get a little stale and are playing out the string, we see kind of those weird upsets.
I've been trying to find ways for just for fun because I don't know. There's not that much to talk about according to the rankings, but I've been trying to find ways where 2 lost teams can make the playoff just for fun.
Okay, what's your most likely? That's what I was just delving into.
Yeah. So we were talking about. You said Oregon State is most likely. So this is what I came up with for Oregon State.
Okay.
Beavers went out. Buckeyes went out. Dogs went out. Wait, crap! I need someone to lose. Wait, yeah, okay. So I have Oregon State winning out, finishing with 2 losses. Ohio State, Georgia, and Florida State all went out. And I have Texas losing at some point. And then I have Michigan losing to Penn State. And then do you think that they would get ranked in the top 4 without?
So you've got
a clean. Need a lot more.
You've got a clean sweep with Ohio State, Georgia, Florida State, just wiping out their league. Okay. And then you got Michigan losing to Penn State and Ohio State, so they're done. And so we're comparing Oregon State against Texas. What did Texas do?
They lose in a game, I guess. They lose.
There you go. They're gone. Well, they're not gone, but if they lose the Big 12 championship game, then it's going to come down to a championship tiebreaker of sorts. Like who won the championship? There would even be, depending on how close the game is, there would be a push toward keeping Washington in it. If Oregon State beats a 1-loss or a 0-loss Washington team and they still have 1 loss. So you'd have to consider that. But yeah, that would be the way to get. Yeah, but you still have Penn State at 11-1, right? Yeah.
No, I have. Yeah. Well, that's why I was. Yeah, darn. Penn State would still be 11-1. Oh, this is tough.
Yeah, it's tough to get a 2-loss team in there.
Who's Penn State? Who else does Penn State have?
Yeah, they
Michigan,
probably.
Rutgers, and Michigan State. So I guess the more likely thing would be, I guess, I don't know. This is tough. I guess I would need Penn State to lose to Michigan and then Michigan to lose to Maryland, I guess, and just lose to Ohio State.
Well, I think it's more likely that Penn State loses to Rutgers.
You think it's more likely? Okay, yeah. Darn it. Okay. I was thinking it was too easy. All right, this is tough.
Well, I don't know that for sure that Oregon State. Well, that Michigan win would look really good for Penn State, and
Yeah.
they would have lost to the number 1 team in the country. So yeah.
Yeah, it's the Big. If the Big Ten wasn't so top heavy, I could see more of these upsets happening. But
yeah, Oregon State 2 losses. Yeah, I do believe they've got a better shot than anybody in the.
Yeah,
Big
because
12.
they would beat Oregon. They would beat 2 top 6 teams.
Yeah, they would have a really good resume.
And they would probably have to be another. It's not by divisions, right? The Pac-12 championship.
No.
So they would need it. So they would have beaten probably Washington or Oregon twice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now at the same time, okay, so who does Oregon State play the last 3 games of the season?
I know they play
You got that?
Washington, Oregon, and one other.
Whoever they play this week.
Who do they play this week?
They've got Washington next week. They are playing
Stanford.
Okay.
All right.
So they're going to have 3 really good wins to finish. And then actually the team that has a better shot, I believe, than all those 2-loss teams in the Big 12 might be Iowa. Because they will play a Big 10 championship game, but it's still just not even worth talking about.
Yeah, they would need to be like +5 on the turnover margin.
Well, it's not even worth talking about because even if they win the game, their resumes just would not be. It would be a 1-game resume.
If they would have won that Penn State game.
Oh, if they would have won the Minnesota game.
Oh, yeah, of course.
If they got ripped off, they'd only have 1 loss.
Yeah. Trying to think. It would be. I don't know. It would be interesting to see some new blood in the playoff. I feel like all the top 6 teams have all been in. Well, I guess Texas hasn't been in yet, but.
Well, that's yeah.
Which of the teams that haven't made the playoff, besides, like, who do you think has the best chance of winning out the rest of their games and getting in? Do you think it's in the order? Do you think Ole Miss, then Penn State, then Louisville have the best chance? Or
it's Texas.
Well, I was saying Texas, but like out of the rest of the pack.
Out of the rest of the pack, it's
so it's basically just 9, 10, and 11.
The team that has the best chance of winning all those games is Louisville. Ole Miss has to beat Georgia on the road, right? I don't know where the game is. Yeah, on the road.
It happens.
And an SEC championship game rematch. They got to beat Georgia twice. And Penn State has to beat Michigan and a Big 10 championship game. Yeah, I'm going to go Louisville.
Yeah. So if Penn State, if they beat Michigan, they're in the Big 10 title game?
No.
If they went out, no. They would need Michigan to beat Ohio State.
Well, it all depends on if Penn State wins this Saturday, they need Michigan to beat Ohio State.
Okay.
It's a 3-way tie. And then the 3-way tie goes all the way down to the 7th or 8th tiebreaker because all the tiebreakers are the same and they all are tied because none of the 3 lose to anybody else. So It would go down to who has the best non-division record. Who played the best 3 teams in the Western Division?
Well, I know Penn State's the only one that played Iowa, so that would help.
Yeah, that would help. They have a slight lead right now.
Yeah, they played Illinois Northwestern as well. So
Yeah.
that's not helping.
I was actually going to do a video on that. I got the numbers in front of me actually here as it stands right this second. The 3 teams Ohio State has played, Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Purdue, are 7-11.
Mm-hmm.
The 3 teams Michigan's played, Nebraska, Minnesota, and Purdue, are 7-11. And the 3 teams Penn State has played, Iowa, Illinois, and Nebraska, are 8-10.
Mm.
That's how close it is.
Wait, so Michigan's leading?
Penn State's leading.
Oh, yeah, no, Penn State. Okay, Penn
by
State.
1 game.
Yeah. Penn State by 1 game. Well, this will all be figured out next year when divisions will be gone in the Big Ten. Yeah.
Then there will be other issues.
Yeah.
There will be other issues with teams that haven't played each other, multiple teams that haven't played each other, tying for, let's say, second place or first place in the Big Ten.
Oh, boy. Yeah. So the SEC is going to be the only one with divisions still.
Yes.
Yeah. But, I mean, SEC's divisions are relatively even compared to other divisions.
We believe
Yeah.
that that they're going to go forward. They haven't even announced their schedule next year.
Mm. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, it'll be interesting
All right,
to see.
Will.
Yeah. One more thing. It'll just be interesting to see
Yeah.
if James Madison can make a bowl. I mean, I don't think they would get put in the New Year's 6 spot, but do you think that they would? I mean, I know it's not.
Yeah, I saw that they're going to the NCAA about that. I didn't see what their argument is. It's not like I agree with him. I think that they should be eligible for a bowl. I don't know why you're on some kind of probation. I don't get that. It would have to be explained to me why that rule's in place. But at the same time, they signed up knowing that they were going to be on a postseason suspension. So it's like, yeah, we already knew this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if they go 11-0 or 12-0 and Liberty, I don't know where they're supposed to be ticketed to go with that kind of record.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right now, I guess Liberty is leading in the pack of the. Well, I guess they aren't because they aren't the highest ranked group of 5 teams. So I guess Liberty isn't. But
yeah. I guess what I was saying was where one of them would land with the other one. You know, Air Force took a topple. Fresno State's getting into it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, we got some good games next week, Mark. So definitely excited to talk about that soon.
Absolutely.
And then they'll definitely shake up the Big Ten, the playoff race as well.
Yeah, I believe so. I believe so. All right, Will.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. I have no idea why I said that the SEC schedule wasn't out. I meant that they had not announced formats going forward in regards to pods, divisions, that sort of thing. But of course, the 24 schedules was released. Anyway, I did enough videos on it. I think. Anyway, we'll get to Ballard here. Ballard, what's going on tonight?
Mark, it's been a minute. How you guys been?
We're good. How are you?
Oh, I'm glad I finally got a Tuesday night. I've been working so much and finally got a Tuesday night. I could sit down and watch the rankings show. And now we got SEC Inside, Alabama, LSU on the SEC network. What a game it was on Saturday. Did Alabama surprise you in ways?
No.
No.
I can't say they did.
I just think I love the offensive line performance. I know people want to poke at LSU and say, well, their defense is mush and it's not that good. But I felt like it was probably one of the more complete games that they played, and I felt like it was going to be a struggle in this one for some reason, and it was up until now that I see it. Jaden Daniels did leave the field, so and then he came back in later on, I think. But
Yeah, well, what impressed me about Alabama, and this is kind of a carryover, and we talked to our guy Stephen M. Smith today about this, is that this is 5 or 6 games in the SEC where the defense has been lights out in the second half. They shut out Tennessee. They held Texas A&M to a field goal. Mississippi State to 7. This game against LSU, just a touchdown in the second half. There's another game I'm forgetting off the top of my head right now. There was only 3 points in the second half. Ole Miss, 3 points in the second half. So Kevin Steele is making adjustments that are working.
yeah, it's definitely working. I mean, second half adjustments, and I think even in some games he's gotten a good start and still found ways to improve. But getting to the ranking side of things tonight, obviously the top 8, not a lot of movement there, not really any. I think those teams are going to stay put until they lose. So, but I look at that. And obviously, it's like if the season were to end today, Ohio State and Florida State, Georgia and Michigan in the CFP, I'm going to be honest. I don't see us getting multiple teams from the same conference this year. And I know that we had it last year with Ohio State and Michigan, but I mean, I don't want to say it's obvious, but I think it's a factor that the CFP committee will value a conference champion more so over a one-loss. Like, let's say someone's got to lose that Michigan game, Michigan-Ohio State game, and everything like that. Like, you're going to value Washington, Florida State, Michigan, or Ohio State, and then you got Georgia. You have one from each of those conferences. I just don't see how both Michigan and Ohio State get in. What do you think?
So,
I think a lot needs to happen, basically.
yeah. So basically, let's say that I think that the scenario that gives the Big Ten the best shot of getting 2 in is for Michigan to beat Ohio State, because Ohio State's number 1, because they've got a better resume, they've got a better schedule, and they would have lost on the road at Michigan. So that's the scenario that gives the Big Ten the best shot. Well, I would agree with you that I do think that a Pac-12 champion with 0 or 1 loss should be in over a Big Ten runner-up team.
Yeah.
The things that could come into play here would be somebody like Texas losing a big. Even if Texas wins the next 3 games, they could lose a Big 12 championship game. You could have Georgia winning the SEC and knocking out Alabama with a second loss. You could have Louisville losing any one of its last 3 games and then winning the ACC championship game with 2 losses. You could have all sorts of things happen that would make a way for 2 teams in the Big Ten to get in.
Yeah, I just see this year being one of those years that proves why we needed to expand. Which, by the way, I was in favor of an 18 playoff, but obviously we're going to 12. But the reasoning behind all that, obviously, as we know, is like there have just been so much controversy in years past where who should be that 4th team in. And I just think it's one of those years where there's not a clear-cut number 1. I mean, Georgia's sitting there at 2. Ohio State's at 1. You got to rank them somehow. I think that, it could be Florida State. It could be Michigan. It could be any of those teams, that the committee sees fit. So that's what's so great about college football is how you have all of these great teams. And, for so long, I mean, this, everybody knows this. It used to be Alabama. Like it was just Bama, just Bama. Then it started to seem going into this year and the past couple of years with Georgia, it's just Georgia and everybody else. That's not the case this year. And I'll say Georgia wins the SEC over Alabama. I know I'm a fan, but I accept reality for a minute. I think Georgia gets in the playoffs and they probably make it to a title, but don't be surprised if they run into a Florida State or a Michigan or even Ohio State again. Remember, Ohio State only missed a field goal against them last year. So, it's not a Georgia and everybody else scenario that we have this year.
Not at all. I think that when you put the history, and when I say history, I'm just talking about last year's history that impacts this year, the players that have already played meaningful games, big games, playoff games, put that together with what we've seen on the field and put that together with the resume. And I think that Michigan and Georgia they look like the best teams to me at this point in the season. But I do think that there are a lot of different teams that not a lot of different teams. I think there's about 4 or 5 teams that could win the national championship.
Yeah. And I would ask you this, I don't know if we necessarily have one, but I know they have a loss, but do you look at Louisville as kind of like a TCU of this year, or is there anybody out there that you say, out of nowhere, here they are?
Yeah, they would be the one. They would be the prime candidate for getting to the playoff and losing 45-7. Yes. They would be the one that would stand out like a sore thumb. I guarantee that if we took a poll and said which team that has a chance of making the playoff, meaning that out of the 0 and 1 loss teams that could get blown away in a playoff game, who is the most likely candidate? That's Louisville.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just college football is amazing, man. I've enjoyed this season. I've actually been working most Saturdays, but still on my breaks and everything, catch a little bit of ball and get to see the rankings every week. And it's just amazing to just see the variety of different teams. I mean, I know, like I said, we came into this season and we said, I know Georgia fans get hyped up. They want a three-peat, but all I'll say is just be careful because, like I said, you got Ohio State up there. You got Florida State, I should say, Washington. You got all these different teams. We can have a Cinderella type of run for somebody. And, if Georgia's not careful, there will be no three-peat. So that's all I got for you tonight, Mark. I love you guys and what you do here for us college football fans. And shout out to everybody out there in the comments, too.
We appreciate you, Ballard. Thank you.
Thanks, buddy. Thank you.
Ballard's a good guy. Very, very good guy. So we appreciate Ballard stopping by. Now, in terms of a Cinderella run, what I would consider to be a Cinderella run, like what TCU did last year, that's Louisville. I wouldn't consider any of those other teams to be Cinderella. Washington or Oregon, in a sense that they don't. Still, Washington's been a big-time program for decades. And so is Oregon, of course. And they were expected to be major players this year. I guess Ole Miss. Ole Miss would be a Cinderella, sure. So Ole Miss and Louisville. I think less of Ole Miss in that category just because they're in the SEC. But Ole Miss and Louisville, there are your Cinderella opportunities right there. All right. Welcome into the Voice of College Football. We got Matthew here.
Hey, Mark, what's up tonight?
Not too much. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I just wanted to ask you because I haven't had a chance to talk to you in a little bit. So when I asked you a couple weeks back, you said that there were, I believe, 5 teams that could win the national championship. I had trimmed my list down to, I believe, 8 or 9. I'm at 8 firm now.
Okay.
Have you bumped yours up at all? Or are you still with the 5 that you originally said? I think you said the 2 SEC, the 2 Big Ten, and you added Texas in there. You didn't believe Washington or Oregon could win it at that time.
Well, Could they? Yes, they could. I'm talking about, yes, has what I believe is a strong shot at winning the national championship. Now, I tend to like Oregon more than Washington, even though they lost the head to head. I think they're playing better. I think they're a better team. I think they've got a better defense. So I would add Oregon. They would be the first one that I would add to that list. I've not seen Malik Murphy play these
You
3
don't want to
games.
watch him. You don't want to watch him play, Mark.
Well, yeah, I'm thinking about dropping Texas off the list and adding Oregon. And then I'd have a real tough struggle internally between Washington and Florida State of who I like better. So yeah, your list is a little bit more reasonable than mine in that I can't differentiate some of the teams on my list from the final 3 or 4 that you have. So your 8 is obviously 2 in the Big Ten, 2 in the SEC. Florida State makes 5, Texas makes 6, and then you've got Oregon, Washington makes 8.
8.
Yeah.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I just think those are the 8 best teams. And honestly, if we had an 8-team playoff, those were the 8 teams. I think any of them could win it. I really believe that. I don't, because none of them are dominant. Like, every team I see has a flaw this year. There's no team that just sticks out to me as like, damn, that team's just going to run right through people. I mean, Michigan hasn't played anyone. If they beat Penn State like a drum this weekend, like 31-3, then I might change my tune on that.
Yeah.
But if they don't, that's a close game. I think that just makes my point even more, because I believe if Texas is healthy, we can be a top 3 team in the country. The problem is, I don't know if we're going to be healthy. Quinn Ewers is progressing well. He's said to be throwing in practice. He's day to day at this point, not week to week. So I think he'll be back for the Iowa State game. 100% sure about that. I don't know about the TCU game. So if we can make it out of this game with them, I don't think we're going to lose to Texas. We're not, let me tell you this. If we're playing Texas Tech with the Big 12 championship game online, we're not losing to Texas Tech. So it really comes down to TCU and Iowa State. And it's going to be interesting because I don't, like you were talking about, you haven't got to see Malik Murphy play. So you didn't really watch any of the Kansas State game this weekend?
No, I was in on other games. And even though that was a game to watch for sure, I got into it very, very late. I saw the Kansas State missed field goal and that they were able to get the ball back and then make the next one. And then I really didn't see overtime.
Yeah, I think that's why I wish you would have watched it or had time to watch it, because I want your opinion on, because there's so many opinions. I've heard people say, okay, well, this like dents Texas because they barely beat Kansas State. And then other people say, well, no, it improves them because they beat them with a backup quarterback. So I'm
Yeah.
on the side of, I mean, we beat a top 25 team in the country with a backup quarterback. Do I agree we should have beat them by more because we were up 17-0 at that one point in the game? And if Sark just takes 3 points, we go up 20-0. And if Malik Murphy's not throwing the ball at the other team constantly, if Quinn Ewers plays the game, we win that game by 3 touchdowns. I'm confident saying that. Quinn Ewers isn't going to run a screen pass that takes 5 seconds long, turn this way, throw back this way to nobody except the Kansas State defender. He's not doing that. So it was just frustrating to watch, honestly.
Yeah, I do think that we've got pretty high expectations of these teams and that they should dominate and control every game. And a team like Kansas State, I would think that a serious national championship contender should beat Kansas State most of the time by 2 or 3 scores, but on 2 or 3 occasions out of 10 games, play that kind of game, barely beat them.
Agreed, but you didn't say with the backup quarterback. I think that changed the difference for every team in the country. I don't care who you're playing. If Ohio State had to play with Noah Brown, they would struggle with teams they shouldn't struggle with because, one, he hasn't gotten the reps that McCord has, and he's not as good. That's why he's not starting.
Yeah, especially if it was Noah Brown because he's playing with the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, my bad. What's his first name?
Devin Brown. Yeah,
Devin Brown. I always mess up with that. Yeah, Noah Brown is playing the Cowboys. He's playing with the Texans now, actually, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, he caught a touchdown this weekend. But how is Texas not ahead of Oregon? That's the only thing that bothered me about this poll. We have better wins than them.
You have to pardon me. My nose is running.
Oh,
like
you're good.
So I'm just kind of had to take a quick second there. Okay. That Washington game is getting a ton of weight That's everything right there. I hear about bad wins, and I don't know where the discussion was. Maybe it was last week's show with the College Football Playoff Committee, and nobody brings up that Oregon went to Lubbock and narrowly. If you look at the final score, you think, okay, they won by 8, but they came within like a toe tap in the end zone of losing that game on a pick with about a minute left that saved them to kick a game-winning field goal, and then they get a pick six that was just icing on the cake with 5 seconds left. So that wasn't the best win in the world, but they're not taking a hit for that. Other than that, Oregon, the Utah game, they get a lot of credit for going in and blasting Utah on the road. And then again, the Washington game, I think people just view it as, well, if you go to Husky Stadium, your coach makes a bunch of bad decisions and you miss a last-second field goal, that's almost like winning.
I guess, but I mean, we went, in my opinion, the hardest play to play in college football is Alabama, and we went in there and won that game. So I just don't understand. I also don't understand because if you're comparing Kansas and Utah are similar teams to me, especially with honestly exactly similar in a lot of aspects. And we destroyed Kansas. We destroyed them. They destroyed Utah, and I agree they're on the road. That should get a little bump up. We beat Kansas State this weekend with our backup quarterback. Who's Oregon's third best win?
Well, their third best win would be, what did I say? You've got Utah. You've got
Washington.
They lost to Washington. So you've got
lost to Washington.
Utah.
So even second best win.
Their second best win. Who am I missing here? Washington State, Oregon State, Cal, Stanford, USC. They play this week. UCLA, they haven't played. They didn't play Arizona. It's a great question. They beat Utah. Their second best win, is Texas Tech.
Yeah, those either the first, they're one of the 4 worst teams in our conference,
or Washington State, who's also 4-5 and only 1-5 in the Pac-12. That's a great point. I think that you're taking a hit. Texas is taking a hit for Oklahoma's decline.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, to me, I always judge wins and then I would go to losses. I don't like intermingle them. I would go best win versus best wins. Then if it's even, you want to go to losses, I have no issue with that. But we have 3, by the own committee's rankings, we have 3 top 25 wins.
Well, if the committee's being somewhat consistent, which of course they're not with what they've been in the past, because number one, they build whatever narrative they want, and they got a bag of like 10 points, and they just pull out whichever ones fit that situation. But basically, egregious losses have been counted against these teams more so than their big wins. Like what's kept Ohio State out of a playoff and possibly 2 is a big loss, an ugly loss, even when they had better wins than the team that they were compared against. And that Oklahoma game is by no means an ugly loss because number one, it was close. Number 2, Oklahoma is still 7-2. But it's obviously taken a hit the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, for sure. It definitely has. I don't disagree with that. And yeah, I'm trying to think. Oregon's schedule left is Oregon State, USC, and then who's the other team they play? UCLA?
You said Oregon?
Yeah.
They've got USC this week.
Okay.
Then they always finish with Oregon State, and I forget who they've got in between. I should have it in front of me. I just posted a video on these tiebreakers. And then I wanted to make a case. Oh, shoot. I don't know what I did with it. Anyway, I don't know who Oregon has the second to last game. Yeah, I don't remember.
I'll look it up real quick. But I was going to ask. So hypothetically, you're the final decision maker. Texas versus Oregon, end of season. I think we would probably end up having 4 top 25 wins because if we did, we would have beaten Oklahoma State, Kansas State, and then I'm forgetting Alabama. So that's 4. Oregon at that point would have beaten Washington, Utah. I don't think USC is going to be a top 25 team, nor should they be. Oregon State, and then I'll look at their schedule, but it would be tied at that point. Who would you go with, honestly? I'll look at because the last game, I guess, does matter, so I'll look at who they do play.
Well, I'll say this before I figure that out, that you can also make the argument that if Oklahoma is going to take a hit for, I'm sorry, if Texas is going to take a hit for Oklahoma losing the last 2 weeks, Oklahoma's first loss, of course, was against Kansas. So are you going to, in theory, if you're being fair, you're elevating Texas's win against Kansas just as much as you were docking them for a loss, for an Oklahoma loss to Kansas. You've got to elevate the win to the same degree. But getting back to that comparison.
They play Arizona State, by the way.
Yeah, so that's nothing.
Yeah, that means nothing.
All right. So in your world here, in your scenario, Oregon has defeated Washington, which avenged a loss. They've got an Oregon State win against a team that's probably going to be 9-3. A Utah win that's a 9-3 team. And that's it, right? Those are the three. There's really nobody else of note. USC, that'll be like an 8-4 win.
Yeah.
Maybe an 8-4 win. Versus, yeah, the Bama game continues to get better and better. They're probably 11-1. And Oklahoma State, let's say so you're making that the championship game.
Yeah, they could lose one more game, and I still think they're in. So
yeah,
I don't see them losing two. Their schedule's very easy.
Yeah, you obviously want them to
win out. Oh yeah.
You want them to be 10-2. And then this Kansas State win's a good win, and Kansas is a good win. And is there anybody else worth noting?
Kansas State, Kansas, Oklahoma State, Alabama. No, that's it. I'm
surprised to say this because I just believe that the Pac-12 is a better conference than the Big 12, and because they played 9 conference games against only 11 possibilities, you usually play a very difficult schedule. But because of Bama and because Oregon misses Arizona and UCLA, 2 pretty good teams. Arizona's now in the rankings. That Texas has a better resume in that scenario.
I mean, I would agree. Obviously, being a Texas fan, I'm going to be a little bit biased, but also when it comes down to strength of record and strength of schedule, we'd beat them in both of those. So
now there is also the analysis of the game control and the dominance of those games.
Yes, that does matter too. I think it would be a mistake, though, for the committee to – I mean, I know you have to weigh the games with Malik Murphy, but if you're going to weigh game control, like if that's your last thing, can you weigh him with our starting quarterback?
Yeah.
I think it's unfair at that point if you weigh him because of a backup.
I do tell you that I guarantee that this Washington loss is – they are weighting this so heavily. And if Oregon would avenge a loss to a team that they're already getting a ton of credit for taking to the wire on the road, I don't know.
Could it be a possibility whoever wins the championship game by more? Could it be one of those scenarios?
Well, yeah, if Oregon avenges that loss and they win some inconceivable score, 44-17, and Texas struggles, and especially if Oklahoma State loses a game going into the Big 12 championship game, and they're only a 9-4 team once they lose the Big 12, then that's not a good scenario.
Yeah. This will be my last point. I think there's going to be one team left out that probably shouldn't be.
Yeah, I get your point. Meaning there should be an expanded playoff. Not that.
I don't think there should be 12, but yes.
Not that they're going to screw up and put somebody in over somebody that shouldn't be there. There just needs to be an extra spot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also keep this in mind, Matthew. I think with the committee, I think they're more impressed with, because they're looking for playoff teams. They're looking for, can that team play against the best teams in the country? They're looking more for that peak moment or two versus does somebody have a string of really nice wins against 8-4, 9-3 teams. That's nice. That's good. That helps. But if it comes right down to it, we want to go with the team that shows that they can, just like in the past, they've docked a team that looked like, okay, if they don't have a good night in the playoff, they could get killed. They want to avoid that.
Yeah, I 100% understand that. I don't think we'd get killed by anyone with Quinn. I mean, if Malik were to end up playing the whole season, I don't even want to see us in the playoff because he could potentially blow out a team, but he could potentially get us blown out by 30. That's the type of guy he is at the quarterback position. Whereas
Yeah.
Quinn is just, at this point, he's the total opposite of last year. He's just consistent. He's just
Yeah.
going to be a B- guy the whole time, and you're not really going to have to worry about him. So it's going to be interesting. I think, like I said, I think there's going to be a team left out. I mean, there's a possibility the Michigan Ohio State winner, I think they could, or loser could win the national championship, and there's a good chance they're left out. So it sucks, but it is what it is, and it's been an exciting year. And again, I'm going to promote my show. I'm here. We're changing it. We're going to be here on Wednesdays at 7:30. That's the only difference, guys. I'm moving it from Tuesday to Wednesday, 7:30 on the Big 12 and Texas channel. So come over and join me tomorrow night.
All right. So, yeah, we should probably put that on the main channel too, so people can find you. But
Yeah.
they should be able to find you on the Big 12 and on the Texas channels. But and we've changed the name of this.
We have
Correct?
just because, I mean, you can't do Texas Tuesdays on
Oh, on
Wednesday.
Wednesdays.
Yeah,
So,
that wouldn't make much sense.
that doesn't make a hell of a whole lot of sense. But so just to clarify, so I saw the name change. What are we referring to there?
Fred Akers, the legendary Texas coach. We
Okay.
just changed his last name by one letter just to for like letters, like you're buying land basically. It's Akers, Acres instead of Akers. So
Okay.
we're good
I
on that. A
didn't
little
know
play
what
on
was in
words.
there. All right, very nice. So
Yes.
it's Texas 40 acres.
Yep, the
And
Texas
and
40
it's
acres
Wednesday
preview.
at 7:30.
Correct.
So we don't typically do another Wednesday show here unless I jump on live, but that's not a big deal. And so we need to get this thing revved up and fueled up, and we need to get people aware of this. So whatever we need to do. So
I'll put it on the main channel. We'll be here talking TCU. I think I can't decide whether it's the hardest game left we have on our schedule. It's either TCU or Iowa State. I think it's going to be a good game if Malik plays. I think if Quinn plays, we'll be fine. But they always give us trouble. Can we just get one win before we leave the conference for some? Can we get one? I'm just asking for one.
yeah, that's kind of crazy. All right, everyone. Wednesday at 7:30 right here. So it's going to be promoted on Twitter. It's going to be on the channel listing that we do with the programming schedule on the YouTube post that people ask me from time to time. If I miss one day, they're like, I rely on that. So then you get the notification, of course, if you subscribe, all those things. There should be no reason why we don't have everyone that's here right now, 155 people or whatever, to be joining us on Wednesday night with Matthew. All
Yep.
right.
Thank you, Mark.
Good stuff. Thanks, Matthew. We'll see
Yep,
you.
no problem. See you.
All right. We are going to bear through this. Appreciate everyone being here and actually listening to me talk tonight, because it doesn't sound too good from this vantage point, at least. We've got JR on the line.
Hey, Mark, how are you?
I am doing just fine. Appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football. What's going on?
Oh, I'm just thinking about the Washington team being ranked 5th and Georgia being ranked 2nd. Do you think that because I feel like the Missouri win for Georgia is comparable to the Penn State win for Ohio State, but I think Ohio State looked more dominant in their win against Penn State than Georgia did against Missouri. Would you agree with that?
Well, I think that's an interesting comparison, and I think it's reasonable. Certainly, Penn State has what was expected to be much better than Missouri and has been given a lot more respect this year.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, Missouri shows up with a 61-yard field goal against Mizzou, and then they held serve against everyone else except LSU, and that was actually a respectable loss. It was close. And so they show up in Athens at 7-1. So I think we should recognize that as a decent win. Georgia didn't blow them out and didn't dominate the game, but I think that's a reasonable comparison. I do think that Penn State's better than Missouri, but I think that's a reasonable comparison. Both played at home, both won, in a not similar way, but in terms of the disparity in score, it's about the same.
Yeah, because what was it, like 37-34 Georgia or something like that?
Oh, against Mizzou?
Yeah, what was it again?
31-20. No,
31-20.
30-21. 9
30,
points.
okay.
Yeah. And
So
Ohio State won by 8.
Technically, Georgia did win by more, but that's why it's so important to watch the games because
Yes.
Penn State they couldn't do anything, and then Ohio State got into that prevent defense late in the game, and that was the only reason why Penn State was able to score there at the end. I know you're on Twitter now.
If we could bottle what you just said about people need to watch the games, because I don't know how many arguments I get with people all year where they bring up differentials and scores, and then I have to point out, okay, well, you got to realize this happened, this happened, this happened. There are games that land at 17 and they were complete blowouts, like not even close. And then there are other games that land at 17 where it was 7 with 5 minutes left in the game.
Right. Yeah. And that like if you just looked at the score of the Ohio State Penn State game, then, you'd think, oh, that was kind of a close game. But even if you look at the box score, you get a little bit more information because Penn State was 1 for 16 on third down conversions or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, just absolute complete dominance by the Ohio State defense in that one. It doesn't look like it because everybody likes to look at high scoring games and stuff. And, even with Ohio State the past 2 years, it kind of would disgust me when we're winning games, 45-31. It's like, oh, okay, well, good, we put up 45 points, but we also gave up 31 to a team who has no business scoring that much on a national championship contender. So,
I can't believe how many people I ran into on social media after that Ohio State Penn State game that were basically taking away credit from Ohio State, and I'm like, are you nuts?
Yeah.
And yeah,
I think we talked about that a little bit on the Michigan show earlier, how sometimes people look at it and say, oh, well, that team wasn't all that good. The Penn State offense is fraudulent, and it's like, well, no, maybe the Ohio State defense is just really that good.
And then you're going to have the same people that are going to take in that Washington 52-42 over USC, and they're going to be ultra impressed because they were entertained by it.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't get entertained by those games as much. I mean, don't get me wrong, the big plays are fun. But I remember when Ohio State played Utah in the Rose Bowl 2 years ago. It was entertaining because it was back and forth. But, every time the defense got on the field for Ohio State, really for both teams, I knew, okay, there's going to be a score here. It's just a matter of fact of, is it going to be a field goal because somebody drops a pass, or is it going to be a touchdown, because the defense does Olay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right there with you.
I know you're on Twitter now. Have you encountered a big game boomer yet?
Oh, well, I've been on Twitter for a long time.
Well, you've been talking about it more.
Yeah, so Big Game Boomer, actually, even though he's got a much, much, much larger Twitter following than I do, he actually started following me on Twitter, I don't know, a few years ago.
Oh.
And so then I followed him back and started to look at his work and see all his lists and all that other business. But we've had him on 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, he's really, I haven't minded him in the past as much, but this season he's really, really going against Ohio State with,
oh, really?
Seems like every breath.
with stuff like what?
Oh, like he'll do stuff like, I think he put out a ranking the other day of like, every team's Super Bowl or something like that. And he had Ohio State's Super Bowl as Michigan, and Michigan didn't have a Super Bowl or something like, it was like NA or something.
Oh, my word. Now that's just, he's either ignorant, which I don't believe him to be. And
No, I don't think he is either.
Big Game Boomer, if you're ever watching us, we've had you on here, like you, and all of that, but maybe he's just trying to poke some people and get some things riled up there, because if anything, yes, Michigan Super Bowl, is Ohio State, and vice versa. It will always be that way, always has been that way, and certainly 2 wins after losing a million years in a row is not going to change that.
I thought you might be just as upset about it as I was.
I didn't see it. I haven't. Now that you bring him up, I'm going to pull up his screen right here. I haven't come across one of his lists in forever. I don't know why. I just haven't seen them.
I think he's doing a lot of like picks and stuff like that because he does like top 50 and stuff. So he does really big things, and it's
Yeah, look at that. He's got 100,000 followers on Twitter. My goodness.
Yeah, he's definitely created a brand for himself.
Yeah. No,
Um,
I haven't seen any of this stuff. I don't know why. It just doesn't come across. Yeah, I still follow him, and he still follows me. Okay. Yep.
Yeah, he was saying today, he was like, I forget exactly what he said, but it was something along the lines during the ranking show that, it's ridiculous that Georgia's behind Ohio State. What was that right there? Yeah, very good Mizzou team. Ohio State played like garbage against Rutgers.
Whoa.
I
Yeah.
mean, if you look at the
Okay.
halftime score alone, yes, but
Yeah.
there was also 12 minutes there where Ohio State didn't have the ball.
Yeah. And let's not. So we would all do better, including myself, if we could somehow, if there was some way to completely strip away bias that gets attached with certain names and brands.
Yeah.
Rutgers is going to have to be a pretty good team for a couple of years, I guess, for people to give them any level of respect. They're pretty good. If Missouri played Rutgers, I don't know who would win. I think Missouri would win. I'd give them an edge, but Missouri has a 1-game record advantage over Rutgers. It's not like Ohio State was playing a traditional Rutgers team that's 2-7 right now, and this Mizzou team's really good, 7-2. No, there's a 1-game difference between the two.
Yeah, and I would say, that Rutgers has, they're higher up in their conference than Missouri is. I think that Rutgers is, probably the 4th best team in the conference this season. I think they're going to give Iowa a game this weekend, and they'll probably score a good amount of points. Not that I think Iowa's defense is bad by any means. Obviously, they're very, very good, and Phil Parker has done an amazing job. But I just look at that Rutgers team and what they do really, really well. And if Gavin Wimsatt can just not turn the ball over, there's a lot of teams out there they can beat that I think people would be surprised that they would beat.
There's the Super Bowl listing here. You're getting me caught up on the Big Game Boomer. Again, for whatever reason, I haven't come across, haven't even thought about him just because I haven't seen any of his posts or that I took note of, I guess. Maybe I've scrolled by them, but for months and months, probably this entire season. Okay. All right. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, and like I said, I don't. He's not normally been against Ohio State this much, but I'm pretty sure he chose Ohio State to lose to Penn State, Wisconsin, and maybe Wisconsin. I don't know that one for sure, and Notre Dame. And so, it's like he's almost wanting Ohio State to lose, which I get what he's doing. He's doing it for clicks and stuff like that. And I'm on social media too, trying to get that stuff. So I get what he's doing. It's just, every now and then I think to myself, that's a lot of clicks you're trying to get. Or no, that was what it was. It was the upset alert. He put Ohio State on upset alert against Wisconsin, which, I guess that's not a bad take. They did give Ohio State a good game. So
this would have been this past weekend. Okay. So this is for this coming weekend, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So, and I think, I don't know. I think that Washington is one of those teams that, you have to kind of throw the resume out on a little bit because I think that they're a good team and they've had some really good wins like the Oregon game. But, I can't get games like that Arizona State game out of my head. I
Yeah.
know that they had the flu and stuff like that, but still, that's not a good Arizona State team at all. I mean, you should be able to at least put together a few drives for points in that one. So I feel like they're like the hardest team to rank in all of this.
Washington. Yeah.
Yes.
I find it interesting that there's a lineup of teams that have played each other. So the committee is keeping that all in order with Washington over Oregon, then Texas over Bama, then Bama over Ole Miss right in a row, which is good, which I do not disagree with in any way. But they did have Oklahoma, despite a win over Texas, behind Texas with the same record.
Yeah. At a certain point, though, don't you think that if you don't look as good or maybe don't look as sharp or as polished, don't you think those automatic win, over this team, don't you think that has to go away at some point if your team doesn't look as polished?
No.
You don't think so?
Why are we playing?
Well, yeah,
If you
I
get
don't
two
know.
teams at the end of the year and they're both 11-1 and one of them beat the other,
Yeah, I just think of like Texas and Alabama because I don't think this Alabama team is anywhere near what they were when they started the season. Jalen Milroe was benched at one point after that Texas game, and that offense just looked absolutely terrible without him in there. And then
sure.
against LSU, he's running around all over the place. LSU can't contain him. Now I know LSU doesn't have the best defense in the world. I'm not trying to say that LSU is great defensively, but
So
I do think Jalen Milroe has improved and they've structured the offense more around him, which would make an impact, don't you think?
So, yeah, absolutely. I'm not arguing who's looking better or anything like that.
Gotcha.
But I just don't think it should matter. I think that, we could have a scenario this year where if a Big Ten champion is undefeated, Florida State's undefeated, Washington's undefeated, they have 3 spots. And then it comes down to Texas 12-1, Alabama 12-1. If that were possible, I know Georgia's going to be in the mix. But anyway, if there's a direct comparison between Alabama and Texas as conference champions and they're both 12-1, I got to honor a win, especially on the road, especially by multiple scores. I can't. Then why are we playing the games?
Yeah. Well, the scenario I was primarily thinking about was, say Alabama and Texas and Georgia all went out, right? If Alabama beats Georgia in the SEC championship, you got a situation there where, Georgia has to drop behind Alabama, Texas has to stay in front of Alabama, and it's almost like that log jam there. I don't know who I would pick. I guess you would honor the wins, but man, for one loss for Georgia, it would seem really, really harsh to take them out of the playoffs, especially what they've done the past 2 years. But I know what you're going to say, that it's about this year. It's not about the past years. I get that, but it would just be quite the conundrum, I feel like.
Absolutely. All right, JR. Anything
All
else?
right. Nope, that's it. Thanks, Mark.
I appreciate it. Have a good
Yep.
one.
You too. Bye.
All right. Let's keep it moving here at the Voice of College Football. Keep in mind the Amazon links in the description section of all the videos. So when you shop on Amazon, please use the link that we provide. Again, in the description section of all the videos, just grab the link, put it somewhere where you will remember it. Also, you can get my picks. They're on Patreon or as a YouTube channel member. So if you get a YouTube channel membership right here, it's easy to do. You're already here on the main channel. Grab a YouTube membership. You get my picks every week on about 20 or 25 college football games. You get Steve Merrill's Under the Radar pick. Get this, 18-5 against the spread since week 1 of last year. So he gives us one Under the Radar selection each and every week. And he is tearing it up. he picked Louisville to cover against Virginia Tech last week. They were a 10-point favorite. They won by 31. So we'll see what Steve's pick is this week. And also, you get the Discord link to talk college football 24/7, 365. We've got our USC show coming up later at 10 Eastern with Tim and Matt. All right. Welcome into the voice of college football, Landfound.
Mark, how much is the voice of good evening, sir? How much does the voice of college football allocate in their accounting for parties? Because I came for a watch party, Mark, and I guess the budget is tight this year, man. I came to party. I'm so happy about the Army game. They beat Air Force.
Yeah.
And I'm not
You're
gonna lie to you,
wondering
Mark,
about the well.
there's not much of a party going on here.
What watch party?
Yeah.
So what are you not understanding about that? We did the watching. That was the party. Now we do the talking.
So you're saying I missed the party?
You missed the
I'm
party.
late to the
Absolutely.
party?
It was so much different than it is now. What was
I
going
see.
on before? You would have been just blown away. It was like Mardi Gras on here before that. You missed out.
Oh, I'm sure.
Tell everyone you know that they missed out on the big party. So anytime the voice of college football says there's going to be a party, then you know it's going to be blow.
I have no. I think I'm a shareholder at the Voice of College Football.
Nice, you are.
So, I'm just wondering where my money's going into.
You have your place to ask such questions, yes, and demand excellence.
Yes. Hey, I'm looking at this top 10 or the new playoff rankings.
Yes.
If I can start with Alabama, because they've been the most dominant team for the last 10 or 15 years.
Yep.
And go from there. Not too long ago, I would have said, you know what? Even though Alabama's not in the top 4, didn't make the playoffs, I would say that they're still the team to beat. But I would say with, I don't know, post-COVID, the transfer portal, college football just getting more competitive, me not really watching any other game outside of Miami, you know that, and the Ohio State Notre Dame watch party that you did, I think the consensus is right that this championship can go any way.
I think that there are more teams that could win a national championship than at any time in the recent past.
I mean, OSU's strong, but they're not as strong as they typically are. Georgia's just won 2 national championships. Michigan is vulnerable. Florida State is unknown. Washington, I have no clue. Oregon, no way. Texas, no way. I think Alabama can sneak in there and seal it. Is the college football playoff ranking, you have to be in the top 4 to make the playoffs?
Yes. How
Does
confident
Alabama have a path there?
when you make these assessments of these teams? I heard a lot of no way, they're vulnerable. Like, how confident are you in making these assessments of these teams?
Well, I base it on the criteria that I listed, plus tradition.
Tradition.
Football. And, Ohio State has a football tradition and a strong winning tradition. Georgia has a football tradition. In recent times, they've had a really strong football tradition. Michigan is suspect to me. We all know why. Strength of schedule, the sign-stealing deal. Florida State is returning back to the party.
Okay. I know you're a big Florida State advocate. You hit me up on Twitter every so often, pushing Florida State and criticizing things that I've said that I can't even, I don't even understand what you mean. I'm like, Landfound's upset about something I said, and I don't even know what it is.
You can't say that, Mark. You can't say that out loud. You know I'm a Miami fan. That's like heresy.
You've thrown it out there for everyone to see.
Well, Washington is. I have no idea. You'd have to tell me about Washington.
Great
But
offense, bad defense. That's Washington in a nutshell.
52-51 against USC.
Yeah, 52-42 to be
52-42.
accurate. Yes.
Does Alabama have a path to the national champion, to the top 4 to make the playoffs?
Oh, sure they do.
They do? They're
Yeah.
still alive?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
They're going to play Georgia in the SEC championship game.
Oh, then they're still alive. Okay. Is everything? Are you okay? Everything's okay?
With me personally?
Personally, professionally, the voice
Yeah,
of college
I'm
football.
doing okay. I know I can't be sounding that good. I feel fine, but I feel run down, and my nose has been running like a faucet for 2 days. But besides that, I'm fine.
I got to look after my investments.
Well, I appreciate that. Anytime you have a great investment idea as a shareholder, as you say, of things that we should be doing here, then you just let me know.
I'm actually glad you asked. Can you give me one more minute of your time?
Sure.
Okay.
I'm
This
here
is
for
my
you.
idea, Mark.
Okay.
All right. For those of your viewers and financial contributors who have given over a certain amount of money, whatever certain amount of money that you deem required or necessary. Let's just put the number at $1,000.
Oh, I was going to say 100,000. Okay, we'll go with 1,000.
Mark, come on, man, come on. Once a year, we get invited to the Voice of College Football for an exclusive behind-the-scenes look at production, a weekend at the Voice of College Football, for how the whole thing is ran.
Yeah.
And to spend time with you.
Okay. Well, that would be awesome. So, this could be 3 people, it could be 12 people, it could be whatever.
Right. What do you think about that? But it's got to, it doesn't have to be, but let's say whoever's given $1,000 over the course of time at the Voice of College Football, or whatever number you deem, one weekend a year, you're invited for an exclusive behind how the Voice of College Football is ran.
Well, I can say
your
this.
side.
I can say this, that it's going to be run from a different location here in the next few months.
Okay.
For one thing.
Okay. Cool.
See all this back here?
Yeah.
All this business, we want to get rid of that. We want to do something completely different, something completely new, better. Been aiming to do that for a long time, but just have not been in a position to do that. So
I want to be here for it. Okay. Definitely want to keep following along.
You know where to find me. I'm here. I appreciate your support. I appreciate your idea. I think that's I didn't expect that idea, but
exclusive behind the scenes look at how the Voice of College, and you go live even with whoever.
So I'm gonna have to start tracking everyone's contribution.
Exclusive behind the scene look. Yeah. Hey, Mark.
I like
Thanks
that.
for your time.
I like that. Land found. Appreciate you.
Yep. Can't wait, Mark. Hopefully it's a great weekend of college football that we have coming up.
No doubt. And we got Miami and Florida State, of course. We go for 2 hours tomorrow night with Miami and Florida State.
With Cam, I'll probably, can't wait.
All right, man. Thanks. We'll see you.
Talk to you later.
Get land found. Big donors come in for the weekend. See, I'm not real confident that anybody cares to do that. That's my largest hesitation there. All right. Good stuff out of Land Found. Yes, we would have to have somebody bring the Oreos. That would be a must. Bigger couch. I knew there would be some good comments coming up here. Yeah. Ramen noodles. Yeah. If I'm flying people in, goodness gracious. Yeah. I don't know. Yes. Good stuff. Hot dog cookout once a year at Mark's Place. Oh, yeah. Yeah, whatever it is, Todd. I think it was from working outside on Sunday. I think that's definitely what hit me. So I don't get sick very often, and I'm really not sick. I don't feel horrible. It's just I can barely talk. My nose is running like a faucet. Well, folks, we appreciate you all being here at the Voice of College Football. We do have a USC show coming up in an hour and a half. That's at 10 o'clock Eastern, 7 Pacific. And then a big day on Wednesday with Ohio State at 11. We've got Florida State at 6, Miami at 7. That's going to be a combined 2-hour show. So we will do that as well tomorrow night. And man, I've got all sorts of scenarios for all these conferences that I want to lay out. I produced the Pac-12. I was able to stop my nose from running long enough to do a video and post that. And we're going to go through the Big 12 and the Big 10 and all these various conference scenarios. All right, folks. Appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football. You guys are the best. Thanks for keeping us inspired and doing what we do best. And thanks to you, the best discussion, debate, and analysis because of your participation. And we will see you all over on the USC show at 10 o'clock Eastern, 7 Pacific tonight. Next show on Wednesday leads off with Ohio State Live at 11 a.m. Go to games all the time, or you've got your heart set on that one huge matchup, go to Ticketsmarter.com to save big. Ticketsmarter technology gives you the best competitive prices on the secondary market. Your purchase price is safe and guaranteed. Use promo code BIG, B-I-G, to get $10 off of any purchase of at least $100, or the promo code BIG20, BIG20, to get $20 off of any purchase of at least $300. Use the promo code as many times as you'd like. There is no limit. Get in the game with Ticketsmarter.com or the TicketSmarter mobile app. Think smarter, Ticket Smarter.